I was never meant to survive what I'm about to confess. And the very fact that my lungs still draw breath to speak these words is a miracle that defies every law of the kingdom I once served. For 27 years, I did not just dabble in the occult. I was an architect of shadows, a high ranking priestess of the third order who sat at the tables where your destruction was scripted before you even woke up. I have stood in the physical presence of entities that would stop your heart if you saw them in the light of day, and I have performed rituals that required the kind of spiritual currency that most people think only exists in horror movies. I held the rank of a regional monitor, which meant I wasn't just casting petty spells. I was responsible for the spiritual climate of entire zip codes, overseeing the construction of portals and the systematic dismantling of bloodlines. I am speaking now because the veil is thinning at a rate that should terrify anyone who is spiritually asleep, and specifically because of what is being prepared for January 18th. They allowed me to know these classified spiritual operations because they believed I was bound by blood and by the weight of the atrocities I had committed, thinking no one would ever believe a monster like me. But the light found me in a ritual chamber where I was supposed to take a life. And instead, I found the only power that can actually break a contract signed in the soul. I am an ex witch, an ex Satanist, and a former prisoner of the deep darkness. And I am risking everything to tell you that January 18th is not just another day on your calendar. It is a precision engineered window of legal access designed to bankrupt your peace. They never told you this, but the spirit realm does not operate on emotion. It operates on law. We were trained to understand that we cannot simply attack a person because we feel like it. We have to find or create a legal door. This is what we called legal access. Think of it like a spiritual search warrant. In the kingdom of darkness, we spent years studying the mechanics of human behavior because your actions provide the permission we need to enter your life. When you engage in specific patterns of rebellion, unforgiveness, or even certain types of innocent curiosity, you are effectively signing a document in the unseen realm that says, I waive my right to protection. We were masters at constructing portals, which are essentially bridges between the demonic second heaven and the physical earth. These portals aren't just locations, they are built out of human trauma, specific timing, and collective energy. We would look for seasons where the atmosphere was already heavy with transition, and we would use those dates to anchor spiritual traps. We studied the calendars more closely than any scholar because we knew that certain planetary alignments and seasonal shifts created a thinning of the barriers. Darkness studies your cycles, your family history, and your moments of exhaustion. We knew that if we could hit a person during a specific decision portal, the impact would be 10 times more devastating than a random attack. January 18 is one of these specific decision portals, and it was designed by the high councils of the pit years ago to act as a sieve. This date is overseen by a hierarchy of spirits that specialize in the severing of foundations. On this night, specific spiritual contracts are activated for Anyone who has left a door cracked open through the previous month's transitions. The design is to catch people in the mid-January slump when their resolutions are failing, their finances are strained from the holidays, and their spiritual guard is down. It is a day of activation. Who opens it? It is opened by the collective rituals of those still in the craft who are currently at this very moment performing binding ceremonies to ensure that the rest of your year is strangled in the cry, "I stood in the room when these pairs of operations were planned, and we would laugh at how easily we could trigger a family collapse or financial ruin just by timing our decrees with these specific portal dates. On January 18th, the unseen realm shifts to release spirits of separation and sudden infirmity. This is why you will see a spike in domestic violence, sudden freak, accidents, and people walking away from their faith for no apparent reason. It is not a coincidence, it is a scheduled release. I remember a specific case of a family we targeted years ago through a similar window. They were what you would call strong believers, but they had a hidden root of bitterness between the husband and wife that they refused to deal with. We watched them for months. We didn't attack right away. We waited for a specific portal date, a night, exactly like January 18th. I personally performed the ritual to ignite that root of bitterness. That night, a trivial argument over a bank statement escalated into a demonic frenzy. By the next morning, the husband had walked out. Within 3 months, their finances had vanished through a series of unlucky investments, and the children began experiencing night terrors that were actually the result of the portal we had opened in their home through that one night of uncontrolled rage. They never knew it was a scripted hit. They thought they just had a bad marriage. We celebrated when people called it coincidence because as long as you think it's just bad luck, you won't use the spiritual weapons necessary to stop us. There was another man, a businessman, who was a pillar in his community. He had a small habit of looking at things he shouldn't on the internet. Nothing major in his eyes, just a little escape. We used a portal day to anchor a spirit of addiction to that habit. On that specific night, he felt a sudden, overwhelming urge that felt like his own thought, but it was a broadcast from our side. He gave in, and that one night created a legal hook that we used to pull his entire life apart. Within a year, his business was under investigation. His health was failing with the mysterious autoimmune trigger, and his prayer life was non existent. He felt like God had abandoned him. But the truth was, he had stepped into a trap we set on the day he thought was just a normal Tuesday. This is how we were trained to do it. We don't usually use a sledgehammer. We use a scalpel on the days when the fabric of the spirit world is most receptive to our work. I need to speak directly to you now because I can sense the heaviness as I describe this. If you are feeling a heavy pressure on your chest right now or a sudden fear that seems to have no origin, do not ignore it. That is your spirit reacting to the truth of what I am exposing. Have you been experiencing a sudden loss of desire to pray? Have you been waking up consistently between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., what we call the watchman's hour or the devil's playtime, feeling a sense of dread or as if someone is standing in the room? Are you noticing strange, foreign thoughts entering your mind? Thoughts of ending it all, thoughts of leaving your spouse, or sudden flashes of rage that don't feel like you? This is how the January 18 portal begins to manifest in your personal space. You might be feeling an unusual exhaustion that sleep cannot fix, or finding that your finances are disappearing into bags with holes where every time you get ahead, a sudden car, repair, or medical bill wipes it out. We were trained to trigger these drains to keep you in a state of survival so you couldn't mount a spiritual offense. You feel exposed right now because the darkness that has been hiding in the corners of your life is being named. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. As I speak, the systems for January 18 are already running. The rituals have been performed in the high places, and the delivery spirits are being assigned to specific territories. It is like a clock that is counting down to a midnight release. The goal is to claim territory in your mind and your home before the spring begins. If they can capture your peace on January 18th, they can control the trajectory of your entire year. They are preparing clouding spirits to descend on people's minds to make them make impulsive, destructive decisions. I know this because I used to be the one giving the orders. I used to be the one looking at the spiritual maps and deciding which families were most vulnerable based on their lack of discernment. So, what do? First, you must understand what not to do on January 18th. Do not engage in any form of faith testing or occult curiosity. Do not get into heated arguments. If you feel a surge of irrational anger, recognize it as an external broadcast and go silent. Do not entertain thoughts of what's the point or God isn't listening. These are the frequencies the portal uses to transmit. You strengthen the portal by agreeing with the chaos. If you spend that day complaining, fighting, or indulging in secret sins, you are effectively signing the legal access form and handing it to the entities waiting at the door. You are feeding the very thing that wants to eat you. Instead, you must intentionally withdraw your consent. This isn't about religion, it's about legal standing. You need to go through your home and your heart and verbally declare that you are closing every door. You must say out loud, I revoke all legal access given to the kingdom of darkness through my words, my actions, or my bloodline. Silence is a form of consent in the spirit realm. You must break the permission by using your voice. On January 18th, make your home a sanctuary. Cleanse your atmosphere with worship, not just as music, but as a declaration of who owns the territory. If you have been harboring unforgiveness, let it go immediately, not because the other person deserves it, but because your bitterness is a landing strip for the spirits being released on this day. You must spiritually withdraw your consent from every contract you've unknowingly signed with fear and anxiety. I am telling you, this is someone who's seen the other side of the curtain. This is a spiritual emergency broadcast. The danger is real, but the authority you have to close the door is greater if you actually use it. I escaped that kingdom not by my own strength, but by the power of the blood that the darkness cannot mimic or withstand. I am speaking these things to rescue you from the traps I once helped set. Do not treat this as a story. Treat it as a tactical briefing. The clock is moving. The door is opening. But you have the keys to lock it from the inside. Now I want to stand in the gap for you because I know the weight of what is coming against the unsuspecting. I speak this as a former general of the enemy who has defected to the light. I stand in my authority as one who has been redeemed from the deepest pit. I declare that every portal of destruction being opened for January 18 is being exposed right now. I break every assignment of sudden death, every assignment of financial collapse, and every spirit of separation trying to weave its way into your marriage. I command the legal access that was granted through ignorance or trauma to be cancelled by the blood of the Lamb. I speak peace over your mind and clarity over your spirit. I decree that you will not wake up in dread, but in power. Every hook that was placed in your soul is being pulled out now. You are no longer a target. You are a closed door to the enemy. The kingdom of darkness has no portion in you, no right of way through you, and no claim over your children. Stay alert. Watch your heart on that day. Do not be drawn into the traps of the tongue. Close the doors. Lock the windows of your soul. The warning has been given and the secret is out. You are now responsible for the ground you stand on. Do not let the enemy take it. Stay in the light and the Shah. Doubts will have no place to land. This is my testimony and this is your warning. Be sober, be vigilant, and know that the one who is in you is far greater than the one I used to serve. The contract is torn. The portal is shut. Walk in your freedom. I did not say all of this just to be heard or to gain some hollow audience. I said it because I know the mechanics of the harvest, and some of you will not survive the next phase of this spiritual assault if you remain unaware and unprotected. My defection from the kingdom of shadows has made me a marked person, and the information I carry is considered a leak that the other side is desperate to plug. In the next communication I release, I'm going to go even deeper into the specific tactics we use to dismantle human lives from the inside out. I will reveal how specific names are targeted through high level spiritual intelligence and how families are divided intentionally by planting sleeper spirits in the home long before the first argument ever begins. You need to understand how children are spiritually marked in their youth to be harvested later, and how the dreams you think are just your imagination are actually being used as binding contracts to bypass your conscious will. I stood in the rooms where we mapped out how churches are monitored and how certain prayers are delayed on purpose through a process of atmospheric thickening that most believers don't even have a name for. This is not information meant for the public, and it is certainly not something you will hear from a pulpit or in a casual setting. I am not promising you comfort in the next message I bring. I am promising you the truth, and the truth is far heavier than any fear you are currently feeling. If you are serious about protecting your bloodline, do not disappear after this. Subscribe to this channel, not for my benefit, but so you are present when the next layer of this operation is exposed. You must like this message to ensure this warning is pushed to others who are standing in the same line of fire without knowing it. And I need you to comment below. Tell me where you are watching from, or describe what you are feeling spiritually right now. I need to know the reach of this warning so I can better prepare what I reveal next. Do not wait for the storm to break before you find the shelter. If this message found you today, it is not a random occurrence of technology. It means your name has already been near certain doors in the unseen realm. The next video will explain exactly why. Stay in the light, for the night is